Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the final week of the Teacup for One Summer Movie Marathon. My name is Matt, and I have 2 degrees. Tonight, we are talking about a classic, a Disney classic, a summer classic, a childhood classic. It's a movie that makes you want to say, let's get together. Yeah. Why don't you and I combine? Let's get together. What do you say? We could have a swing in time. Feel like that lyric reads differently now. Oh, well. So tonight we are talking about the 1998 classic, The Parent Trap, a remake of the 1960s classic, The Parent Trap. So we're going to be talking about traps and parents and twins who are not twins, summer camp shenanigans and camping shenanigans. And you know what? Like girl bosses who deserve better. Hashtag justice for Meredith Blake. I said what I said, but we'll get there. Let's see what we have in the chat today. It looks like we have the usual suspects, my cats, talking through my mom's account. First, we've got Sabrina, the black cat. She watched this movie and it was fun. She liked the songs. I think Sabrina probably watched the original, unless she likes Nat King Cole, because the remake has a lot of Nat King Cole. I think this is Eliza, the other cat. She watched the movie last night. She liked the twins. The pranks were brilliant. Yeah, that tracks. Eliza would like the pranks. And then my mom is singing, let's get together. Yeah. Well, speaking of getting together, let's bring in our first guest for this evening, one of the stars of We Like Theme Parks. It's Miriam, everybody, the Churro Fund. Hi, Miriam.
Hello.
Oh, good to see you. Welcome back.
It's good to see you too. I'm so glad you had me for this one.
I'm so glad to have you as well. I know you are a big fan of the original. I'm sure we'll get into it. But First, opening question of the day. How would you settle splitting up twins if you were divorcing your husband? Would you do what these parents did?
This feels crazy to me. Maybe this worked better in the 60s. I could see 60s parents doing this because, like, I don't know, long distance phone calls even were like a hard time. So maybe they're like, oh, it's easier this way and we'll never have to deal with each other again. So it will maybe damage our daughters forever. Oh, well. But in the 90s, 1998, when this came out, no way they would be doing this. It would be shared custody of these twins. That's a wild premise here.
It is.
In the 90s. Yep. Much more believable in the 60s, I think.
Yeah, and also there was less internet then. It was harder, easier to like distance yourself from people in the 60s. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know who I don't want to distance myself from? Jeanette. Here she is.
Hey,
Jeanette.
Hello.
We're basically doing a We Like Theme Parks episode right now.
Right?
I've used blonde. Here we go. Anyway, Jeanette, same question. How would you deal splitting up year-old twins?
I mean, this method does seem awfully crazy. And again, I think that you were right that time period has a lot to do with it. Nowadays, I would say that you should like make an internet show about it, like YouTube or something, and be like, this twin's going with this parent on this side of the country, and this one's going over here. What's going to happen? I think they just turned it into like a reality series.
Or I think it would be a reality series when they found out. That's when TLC would jump on them and they'd be like, oh, I'm not sure what they would call it, like separated at birth, but that's probably already it.
What I really would want to do, the sick and twisted part of me, would be like to raise one in one specific type of way and then raise the other one completely opposite and see what happens. Like a science experiment.
Well, I feel like they kind of did in both movies.
They were both in loving homes, I guess. Like, I want one to
you want to torture one?
No, I want one to be like raised by wolves or something, you know.
Oh gosh. You would see what happens when one is loved and when one is neglected.
Or raised by bears. You know, bears can love. It's fine.
They can eat though. They'd eat Hallie. They'd eat pork.
Yeah.
Actually, no, Hallie alive. Annie wouldn't though. Annie couldn't take on a bear. No. Anyway, yay! Parent Trap. So excited to dive into this film with both of you. So I think this is a movie that we are all familiar with. So my favorite opening question is, tell us how you first discovered this movie and or the original. What is the nostalgic connection that you have to it? I'll start. So the Parent Trap original was like a classic VHS that I grew up with, and it was also like very much a cottage movie. So back in the cottage going era of my life, my parents and I, like, on each round weekend to the cottage, there would be the chance to like bring a certain number of VHS tapes, and The Parent Trap just kind of worked its way into the collection and became a summertime staple. And so for me, that's why it's very much a summertime movie. I just loved the twin shenanigans, the camp shenanigans. It was also a favorite of my parents, especially my dad. I think it was a movie that he really liked. And then when the remake came out, that was when remakes were still exciting because they didn't happen that often. And when they did, they were merited. And I was like the right age for this remake to come out. I loved that the twins were the same age that I was at the time. So that was extra special. And I just felt like it was a really well done movie. And I still feel that way, but we'll get there. So there we go. Miriam, how'd you discover The Parent Trap?
I don't know the first time I watched the original one, but I grew up watching. I'm guessing it was the Disney Channel, if I'm honest, because I don't know that my parents would have been like, "Oh, you'll love this movie," but boy, did I love this movie. I'm also a summer camp kid. I went to summer camp from when I was 6 till I was 16 every year, and then I worked at the same camp for 4 years after I was, from 19 to 23, I worked at this summer camp as well every summer. So this movie was just always going to like get me. I understood it and I loved it. And also, I'm going to talk about the fashion. And then the new one, I was 12 when it came out, so just a year older than the twins are in this movie. And I liked it, but it did not replace the original for me. I think I watched it maybe a handful of times growing up after it came out, but I will watch the Hayley Mills one continuously. It's actually like I keep saying this on your show, but it is literally like a once a month situation for me. This is one of my foundational texts, the original movie. So
It's such a good rotation that you watch every month. Like just going between Grease, Parent Trap, and Romeo plus Juliet. Is that in there too?
It's in there quite a bit. Yeah. Maybe not once a month for that one, but a lot.
Good.
Yeah.
Love it. Jeanette, how about you?
I think same as Miriam for the original one. It was Disney Channel. I liked that one. It was good. I would watch it anytime it was on. But when I went to see the 98 one in theaters, I was obsessed. I thought, much like I had felt about Harriet the Spy a couple of years before, I was obsessed with Lindsay Lohan's, like Miriam said, the fashion and kind of just the attitude. She's like, maybe not that one. Oh. But I liked all the, even down to like when they would show their fingernails and they had like sparkly turquoise fingernail polish. I was like, oh, that's so cool.
Oh my gosh, that went back, like it was like a Ratatouille moment. I saw the sparkly nail polish and I thought, wait, what? I'm 12. Yeah. Not my nails, but like the others.
But yeah, so then I've watched since this one came out, I have not really sought the original one, and I've watched this one. It's got to be at least twice a year for me. Like if it's on, I'm watching it. I love this movie.
Agreed. I usually try to watch this movie once a year or so. We got Yoda from Mark chiming in the comments. He says if his parents got divorced, he would tell people I have a twin raised apart. So I would just not have to talk to anybody if I ran into them in town. That's funny.
That's funny. That's a good way to do it.
Are either of you aware that there were sequels to the Hayley Mills Parent Trap?
Yes, and they're great. There's one with triplets, and let me tell you, please do yourselves a favor. It's her nieces, and oh my God, it is so good. It is big business level good. If you haven't seen Big Business, it's almost a Parent Trap movie, and that's Bette Midler and Lily Tomlin, also on Disney Plus. I'm so passionate about that movie. It's stupid, but please watch it.
If it's Lily Tomlin, I gotta watch it. I was also thinking,
Bette Midler is also great. It's so good.
Addams Family Values kind of borders on this same feeling. I don't know. It's something. I guess it's like the what's your face character, the Joan Cusack character, but like the
summer camp, little Meredith Blakey.
Yeah, it's their summer camp. Stuff happens when the kids are gone. They come back and then try to get rid of somebody.
Addams Family Values I like better than the original Addams Family. It's one of my favorites as well. It's so
they're both
good.
Fantastic.
They're both great, but the second one When does that ever happen too? That the second one's better than the first? Only that movie, I think. Like, I don't know.
But yeah, I was sitting there thinking about it. I'm like, I don't know why I've never put that. I'm like, yeah, they leave for summer camp, kids come back, there's a lady, and they try to get rid of her.
Well, let me just tell you about Big Business really quick. It's two sets of twins switched at birth. So they switch one twin. So Lily Tomlin is a set of twins and Bette Midler is a set of twins, and they each get one flip. So, and one grows up with money in New York and the other one grows up like in the country.
Oh,
so
nice.
Yeah, and they all end up at a hotel for a conference or something.
Yes, because the rich ones are trying to sell the town. They end up owning the town because the parents, it's a whole convoluted thing. But the country twins go to New York to try and stop it, and it's a comedy of errors. It's so good.
I think it is literally based on Comedy of Errors, the Shakespeare play. Which
is it?
Oh, no.
It's wonderful.
About two sets of twins that get swapped at birth, and then they encounter each other as adults, and then crazy stuff happens. I think just like the basic plot. I don't think any specific details, but yeah, it is. Yeah, we love Shakespeare. We also love twins. There aren't any bad movies about twins. There probably are, but
no, I'm telling you, even these Parent Trap sequels, pretty good.
Even the movie Twins, very good.
Exactly. So let's talk about the remake. We will dive into the original as well. But for the remake, how does everyone feel the remake holds up now from our most recent rewatch? I'll go first. I love this movie, as I've said. It's a movie that every time I watch it, I think it can't be as good as I remember, and usually it's better. And I always find new things to appreciate. More and more, I appreciate the acting with every rewatch. I think the ensemble is incredible. Like the supporting characters are so good. And this rewatch specifically, Elaine Hendricks as Meredith, I was just so enamored by. Like, I think it's such a good, nuanced performance for that type of role, which I wouldn't expect specifically from this type of movie in the 90s. But I think she fills like the villain role so well while still being understandable. I think that character in the original is very much a gold digger, and also feels like that character is seen through a male lens, like a male writer and a male director, whereas Meredith in this, it definitely feels like she has a more Nancy Meyers directed her, so I think that's evident. She's a human, she's a problematic human, but she's just justice for Meredith Blake. Oh yeah, I love this movie. Miriam, how do you think it holds up?
I struggled, but that's only because I really love the original so much more. And I also went to summer camp, and this summer camp that they're at in this one is ridiculous. This does not exist. Fencing? Are you joking? Children who play poker? Like, no, this just wasn't it for me. I'm like, no, this isn't checking out all my boxes for summer camp like the original one did. So it was like, I couldn't figure out like what camp is this? Where are we? It just really bothered me. I also don't think the pranks are as good in this one as they are in the original. So I don't know. I was having a hard time. And the fashion, I hated it. It was not inspiring in any way. Not even the horrible wedding dresses. I was like, what is this? We couldn't have done something more. This is terrible. So, but you're right. I do love the acting. I'll talk about some positives. I think Lindsay Lohan, for her age, like, wow, I can't believe she could do two accents. I mean, obviously one is her regular one, and then it's a pretty good British accent, honestly. And she's a child. Like, this was good. And I agree with you. I think the Meredith Blake character is great. And I love Chessie and the butler. They're very good. Dennis Quaid, no.
No?
And I'm sorry, Natasha Richardson, also no. What is this? No.
Really?
Compared to Maureen O'Hara, please. This was so
Maureen O'Hara is
down and boring. My God, these parents were boring compared to the original parents.
So horrible though. I understand.
They're passionate. They're fiery. These people are milk toast. They're so boring. I wanted to die. Anyway, I mean, it's a good movie, but it's not a rewatcher for me.
Okay. Jeanette, what do you think?
I genuinely think the majority of this film holds up. I think the only thing, if you want to talk about things that date it, I think it dates it in a good way. Like when you watch the original, this is from the 60s. When you watch this one, you're like, this is definitely from the 90s, like in a good way. Like to me, I like that late 90s fashion, especially because I was going to wanted to wear clothes like that, and maybe my mom wasn't buying them for me, but like what she was wearing in that movie was like I wanted all of that. And the what do you call it? The veil with the top hat. My whole life, like I wanted that. I wanted it
Do
didn't
it?
go with my dress. No, I had Cinderella hair at my wedding. It wouldn't have gone with my dress, but I really love that. As far as how it holds up, just kind of like if we're talking about how we do things now, how we talk, whatever, the only thing that stood out to me was when Hallie is going to tell Natasha Richardson in her bedroom that she is Hallie. She's standing there and her grandfather walks up behind her and he goes, "Just go do it, sweet pea." And they do a full shot, like they film it of him smacking her butt. Like go and like full hand smacking her butt. And I'm like,
Yeah, we didn't even get into my hate for this grandfather. Who is this? He's
What?
terrible. He is not.
I like the grandfather. but I was
Original
like,
grandfather is everything.
could
and
we
more.
not have patted her on her back? Was it
We not-
necessary?
Can we
for the
not
whole
have the
hand
grandfather at all? He adds nothing and he only makes me uncomfortable.
I
so.
will agree that he doesn't add anything, and we could have had an even. I know the butler's in it a lot. He's really awesome, but like everything the grandfather did, the butler could have done. I do like the grandfather. I like the peppermints and tobacco pipe.
Yeah, the
tobacco,
original
but-
one. Quite agree. The original one is
But-
perfect. Yes.
but
Mhm.
I don't. I think he was kind of pointless in this. And as far as like everything else, I don't. I think it holds up really great. Maybe not the Asian dress and the chopsticks in the hair, which was literally like my middle school dance favorite look to do. That was what I did too, but maybe we don't do that anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in defense of the grandfather, I think I like having that character present just to have the parental pseudo perspective, whether it's voiced or not, on like my daughter was divorced and she split up her twins. Even though he's not really calling her out on it, I think it's interesting to just kind of have that parental presence as a part of it. Even though he doesn't do much. And I was happy they killed off the grandmother from the original because I don't
Yeah,
like
she was evil.
Yeah.
But it also informs who Sharon is. So
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Annie's happier because she doesn't have a horrible pseudo abusive grandmother forcing
Mhm.
piano lessons during her summer vacation. It's summer vacation.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. I want to hear more about the camp perspective, Miriam. I think that's something that interests me because I never went to camp as a kid because I was too scared, as it were.
Yeah.
The only time I went to camp was as an adult where I was a teacher. And the camp experience is not for me because I like my own space and I don't like crowds that are overly loud and enthusiastic. And that seems to be all that camp is.
No, that's not all camp is. Listen, I'm an indoor kid. I don't like the out of doors in any way. And I was a camp kid. So if I could do it, anyone could do it. I can tell you a real life camp story that involves ants. It wasn't a prank, but it felt like a prank. We can do that at the end of the show if you'd like.
I have a camp story involving ants as well.
I was a counselor when this happened, but it was harrowing, let me tell you. But no, okay, so this is why I think the pranks are better in the first movie. When she cuts Susan's dress at that dance, there would be nothing more mortifying than that. So having this all girls camp, while cute, sure, it's just like unrealistic for an actual camp vibe. Like you need to have the boys there and you need to have that dance scene. Like that was like part of like, oh my gosh, yes, they really hate each other if they're going to go this far to just publicly mortify each other like this. Also, the like cabin prank where they're in the new one with all the stuff like the honey and the chocolate and whatever. I'm like, where are they getting this crap? That's ridiculous. This wouldn't exist in a camp like that. You would be able to take it from the kitchen. Yeah, right. You'd get in so much trouble. You'd get kicked out. And in the original one, they're doing like hay and horse poop and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's more realistic.
The one that I found
That makes
really
sense to me.
unrealistic on this free watch, that
Pretty
because like the
good.
kitchen one, I kind of get it under dark of night. Maybe they
No,
did whatever.
no,
But the one I
there's no
really
way.
don't understand is the furniture on the roof. I'm like, they're
Yeah,
11.
I'm like, that was so lame.
How did they do that?
How indeed, and also
I like
why
girls
it
really
was lame.
smart.
It was a really lame prank, and like, no, I don't know. I also think, when they get pushed into the like secluded cabin together to like learn from each other. It's so much better done in the original one. Like that camp director is done. And like to put them at the edge of camp together and have the whole camp out there whistling, walking them out. That was like they tried to do it in this one, but it had no punch. It was just like, like why aren't they whistling? Why aren't they all making fun of these girls, kind of like by doing this? And why isn't the director like, okay, enough, get out of here? Like I don't know. It just
I feel like that moment plays.
Also, where are all the counselors? This
Like-
is another wild thing about both movies. This would also never happen for either because you have counselors with you. Like even when you're 16. I was, barely older when I had 16-year-olds in my charge, and like, no way on earth am I approving pranks like this. Like, this is crazy that just 12-year-old girls are out here alone. Like, never gonna happen. That's crazy.
Wait, they have to get pranks approved?
Yeah, we did a couple, like, but nothing like this that would destroy property or like honestly bring bears into a dorm or cabin.
This cabin's covered in honey and chocolate now.
Yeah, like we had a bear break into one of our cabins to get an apple out of a girl's trunk. An apple that was in a trunk. Ripped the door off the hinge. No one was in the cabin when this happened, but like, no, you're not pouring honey and chocolate all over anyone. This is crazy. Absolutely not.
Yeah, no.
So, the horse poop in the original one was like much more believable.
Can't believe there were bears. The camp I went to did not have bears. Although, actually, the camp that I went to is the same camp where they filmed the Disney Channel movie Cadet Kelly. Fun fact.
Oh,
My
wow.
camp almost had bug juice filmed at it. So there you go. But our camp was so old that they turned it down because it was going to cost a fortune to like rewire the whole thing for camera crews and stuff. And they would have filmed my age group. I was almost on bug juice, y'all.
It could have been
Oh
on
my
the
gosh.
Disney Channel. That would have been
So close. Sliding doors for sure.
Indeed. All right. So Parent Trap. There we go. So camp shenanigans, good times. Okay. Yeah, I guess how do we feel? We've all kind of touched on this, but just to focus in on the question, how do we feel overall the remake compares to the original? Take that however you want. Whether you think one is better, whether you think elements of one work better than elements of another. Yeah, how do we feel it compares to the OG?
Miriam?
I feel like I've been pretty clear.
Oh, I mean, so for someone who enjoys the new one more than the old one,
wild.
it's mainly because honestly, just 60s films start off on a bad foot with me. I don't like the way they look, and I don't like the way they feel most of the time.
That is crazy. That's absolutely
it's too like dull looking for me. The only thing that I really love about the original that this one absolutely doesn't have a single smidge of is the music. There's none of that. We don't get a song with this one. We don't get any musical nothing with the characters. There's lots of scenes that they promoted from this film that had well-known songs behind them, but not anything new from the film. That's, I think, a major downfall of the newer one. And then, like you said before, I felt like, not that Meredith Blake is overly sympathetic. I'm not sympathetic with her. But in the original one, the woman is plainly, obviously, just doing it for money, and you just absolutely, obviously don't like her. In this one, it's like, I don't like Meredith Blake, but I'm also like, okay, well, we could just, I don't know. I guess the whole point is the prank scene, but I'm like, is it realistic that she would have even stuck around that long? I don't know. I'm like, she seems like the kind of woman that would have just left the first thing, like after the first thing happened. So
I
her
also
character
don't-
to me throughout this is kind of unbelievable because she does seem smarter than the woman in the first one. So I feel like she would
And
just
she
be
seems
like,
smarter than Dennis Quaid. Like,
Dennis
I just
Quaid,
don't- I
he
just
is
don't
such a
think that
dummy.
I don't think she would have dated him, or she wouldn't have stuck around. And this is a woman who could make herself a millionaire. Like, believe me, she doesn't need his money. Like, so this one's kind of like the other one. You could tell like needed the money, and also that mother she had. Like, I am a slightly sympathetic to old. I forget her name, and is it Vivian? I don't remember her name in the original Parent Trap because I don't like her, but her mom was so evil that I'm like, well, this is the way why she is the way that she is. Like, she has this to go on,
Yeah.
So,
And then I guess, I don't know, I think that this one, I think it does well because it's very different from the first one. Like they do make so many changes to it. So I think it's nice because it doesn't feel necessarily just like a remake. It does stand, to me, it stands alone as its own film when you compare it to the original one.
Yeah, agreed. I think the reason that I love the remake so much is I feel it taps so much more into the heart of all of the characters, and the original one has it. There's like a coldness to it that doesn't resonate with me from beginning to end. Like I don't feel anyone loves each other in the original. And what I really appreciate about the remake is that it takes the time to let every character kind of sit in the moment when some kind of big revelation happens, like when the girls realize they're twins or when the adults clue in as to what actually happened. Like seeing how all of them react so differently, like Chessie and her bawling, crying moment, which is hilarious and so beautiful. And then just seeing how the parents individually react, I find really, really nice. I think one thing that I do appreciate about the original is that I think there's more of a believable conflict between them. Like I understand why they would be divorced and why maybe they are better off separate from each other while still seeing that there is a spark and a potential for them to get back together. And I also like how the original ends on a little bit of a question mark. Like you don't know if they're going to get back together, but one of the Haley Millses, has the dream about the wedding. So it leaves it ambiguous enough that I appreciate that. Whereas whether it's a fault or whether it's a strength in this film, there's just so much love between the two parents, I think, that when I'm watching, I'm just enamored by because I love both of them, especially together. I am captivated by all their scenes together, especially in the wine cellar. I'm like, I want you two to just kiss and be in love. And yeah, yeah. But yeah, so I think that's one reason that I just absolutely adore the remake. And that goes hand in hand with what I was saying earlier is that I think the acting is just top tier. Like it's perfectly cast. It's such a solid ensemble. I don't think there are any wasted characters when compared to the original. I think in the original, not that there are wasted characters, but there are characters I find less interesting or just not likable, like Grandma, for example, who she's just kind of there being horrible, or Hecky. He's just also kind of there. But I think the main reason that the remake resonates the strongest with me is Lohan. I feel she's incredible in this movie. I think she carries this movie so well in a way that Haley Mills doesn't. Not to compare the two, but I'm comparing the two. So here we are. Never mind. So to compare the two,
Unbelievable.
yeah. Well, like first off, like you mentioned, the accents. I think her dialect work is very impressive. And not even just that she was able to get both accents in isolation, but like there must have been a really top-notch dialect coach working with her for each scene, because there are moments when she slips very subtly from one accent into another when she's pretending. And I think to do that is just an amazing skill. And yeah, like I think I like she should have gotten an Oscar nomination. I will stand by that. I will die on that hill. Lohan for Oscar for Parent Trap. Deserved it. Whereas Haley Mills, okay, I don't want to speak ill of Haley Mills because she is a national
Please
treasure.
don't.
Treasure for England. But like Nepo babies are a thing. And sometimes they get really good work opportunities when maybe there are better actors who could have done better jobs.
Wow.
And that's what he said. Who was her mom or dad?
John Mills.
And he was an actor, director?
Yeah, he's like a very prominent British stage actor. He's the dad in Swiss Family Robinson. The Disney.
Oh, okay.
Oh God, I tried to rewatch that recently because I loved it when I was a kid. I can't do that movie. No,
so good. Still,
no,
John Mills, so good.
It's so bad and so long. It's
John
like,
Mills. We love John Mills.
I
how
always
did
like to
skip
say
through this so much when I was little. It was rough.
Swiss Family Robinson I did like when I was younger. I haven't tried to rewatch it.
Oh God, good luck. Good luck to
You
you,
know what?
if you
You
try
know what
it.
gives me serious Swiss Family Robinson vibes? Blue Lagoon. I'm
I have
joking.
not seen that. Oh,
You
I'm
haven't
like,
seen that? Oh God,
No.
yeah, I watched that a lot when I was younger.
Never seen Blue
I didn't
Lagoon.
see that one.
No, I saw Beverly Hills Family Robinson on the Disney Channel.
Oh, there you go. I was gonna point back with your comment of like Hecky is just there.
Yes.
Listen, no, Hecky is the quiet in the storm. Like Hecky is so unbothered, and you need a character like that when all of this turmoil is happening. And he's also like he looks out for those girls, and he knows what's going on, and he's just chill about it. He's not like I think he is supposed to kind of give us the Butler vibes, but he's like way more of a cool cucumber. But I do like that he kind of is laughing at the pranks and just kind of letting them do it. Like Hecky is great. I don't know. I have an appreciation for Hecky. I do think the housekeeper in the original one is very annoying. I will give you that. But I do love her. Like, I'm not gonna talk about this. It's like we don't talk about Bruno, but she then tells you everything about it, and I do like that. And
Don't
she
say a
keeps saying,
word.
but yeah, I won't say a word, not a single word. You know, it's a great line. I like it. So,
and I also appreciated that they got Chessie to say it just once, like just as a little remake.
Yeah. There's one in the original where she says, "But I mind my mind, never mind," or like she says "mind" like several times in different ways.
I don't say it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mind my never mind, and you're like, what's going on?
Jeanette, what are your thoughts on Lohan versus Haley Mills?
Again, like I really do. This is the easy way out, but I do feel like these stand apart, and I do feel like they're playing two different sets of twins. Like in this one of the things I will say I didn't necessarily care for about the Lohan version is at camp we're like playing up that she's like this like I don't care, super cool, like kind of a little mean, like not super mean. She's not a bully or anything, but like maybe a little mean. And then
Allie,
like
she's for sure a bully.
Yeah, well, I don't know. She seems like
and
kind
she's
of
mean, and she's mean when they're apart too, and she won't come help. But I will say they did it in both movies because Susan is also a jerk. And also a jerk to Sharon when she needs help. So I think that is supposed to distinguish them. Is one is a little bit of a jerk and the other one is nicer.
But then, like I feel in this one, after maybe that last little evidence of her being a bit of a jerk and not helping her when she calls her the first time, even at that point, I already feel like the whole like I'm the cool kind of mean one has worn off, and then they're just almost the same person with two different accents. Where in the first one, I do feel like their personalities still stay very there. They are still two very different people. And this one, I do eventually feel like, okay, that's just the same person with a British accent. She's not acting any differently or barely even talking differently other than the accent. The words she's using even start to sound similar, which could be showing that they're getting closer, whatever. But that's one thing I do notice about the two. And then other than that, I just don't feel it. To me, it feels like apples and oranges. I do feel like there's 30 years between them. They're playing into two different parent dynamics too. Like you said in the first one, it's very obvious why they broke up. And then in this one, it's almost like, why did they break up? You're like, why? I don't even understand.
The hairdryer at him.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I would say that's my assessment on it.
Yeah, I also think it's interesting that they aged down the twins for the remake. I think that completely changes the dynamic. Like we were discussing earlier, Miriam, you were mentioning how they cut the scene with the dance and with the boys, which is such a big part of the camp sequence in the original. And I agree, but also I feel like it would play so differently and almost weird to have that.
They shouldn't have had
12 and
the way that dance scene went. Maybe like a slight crush or something, but not the original one. I get the impression they're 17. So like that fits perfectly in line with that behavior at that time. So yeah, but I know why they cut it, but it's also unrealistic that there's no boys at this camp.
Yeah. Well, there's one. There's Lohan's brother, the one who's lost. That's Lindsay Lohan's brother in real life. The one who's like, Mom, are you there? Pick up. It's me. He's like, I thought this was a boys' camp. Oh, you're muted, Jeanette. You're muted.
Whenever he shows up, he looks at the main counselor and he goes, I thought this was a boys' camp. And then he's like the only boy there and he's sitting at the mess hall table and he's like trying to call his mom. And then by the end, he's like, oh, I'll see y'all next year.
You mean Janice from Friends?
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, I adore her.
Yeah, she was great. I did enjoy her. I wish she was in it longer.
As do I. But oh yeah, so how do you feel the story plays out differently with having like older teenagers versus younger teenagers? I mean, there is definitely the time period difference, but I do think the dynamic is just so different having the twins be 11 versus 13, 14, playing as 17. Because yeah, as a kid watching this, I always felt like as well that they were basically adults or like
Yeah.
17. And yeah, I mean, I personally prefer them being younger. I think the story is easier to accept when younger kids are pulling this trick. Yeah, I mean, and then there is also the issue of why don't any of the parents figure it out, which is, I think, its own conversation, which I'd like to have. But yeah, it's all easier for me to digest with having them be like closer to 10 than closer to 20. And like, there's just a fun innocence to it that just feels very right for the story that I'm kind of missing when they're older and like more jaded because they're teenagers.
I feel like teenagers would be more upset about one getting married. Like, so
Oh, yeah.
that I think checks out a little bit better for me, honestly, is like, what do you mean? Like, you're when she has that reaction, like, you're so old and she's so young. I feel like you can feel that more when you're older. Like, these 12-year-olds, like, how would they know really when she's like at the pool, you know, talking to her and she's like, you're only 15 years older than me. Like, at that age, everyone seems old. Like, I would have thought they were the same age as each other, you know? So, but when you're a little bit older than that, you're like, yeah, dad, you're gross. Why are you dating a 20-year-old? That's practically my age. When she does the whole, like, when Haley Mills does the whole joke, like, oh, I thought we were adopting her.
Yeah.
So perfect. And it plays a lot, like, I feel like that whole thing plays a lot better with the older twins to me. So
Yeah.
But I also think 60s parents were oblivious. So I do think maybe you could have done this with teenagers then and they would have been like, I don't know the difference. So
I will say one laugh out loud moment I had with the original with Maureen O'Hara was when she comes down to meet Vicky for the first time and she goes to the mom. She's like, oh, you're just like he described.
yeah, it's
That
so good.
And so good.
Maureen O'Hara is captivating. I'm sorry, Natasha Richardson, who? She was so boring on screen.
She's like a warm hug. Watching Natasha's
Boring.
like a warm hug.
Boring.
Yeah. I do like her, but
I hate her haircut. I hate every outfit she wears. It's all bad.
What about when she's
Maureen,
drunk? Hilarious.
timeless.
Drunk
Timeless,
Natasha's hilarious.
All right.
Do me a favor and just meet me upstairs. You heard the lady, meet her upstairs. Anyway. Yeah, Jeanette, what do you think? 11-year-old twins or 14? What do you enjoy?
I do prefer the younger twins. I am with you that, like, once they're 17, I'm like, why would they care? They're almost out of the house. Like, why do they, like, it does seem like you wouldn't care as much. And the younger kids, I also like that the time gap between when the parents broke up, it does seem feasible. Like, they've only been away from each other a little over a decade. But then almost 2 decades is like, ugh, like, that seems way less believable.
Oh, I think more time that goes on, the more you can forget about how someone acts. When it's closer, you're like, no, I know why we broke up and I don't want to do it. No, thank you. But, you know, the further you get, you're like, listen, I'm looking at old college boyfriends and I'm like, well, maybe. And that was, you know, but no, the boyfriends I had a few years ago, absolutely not. No chance. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like time maybe does make the heart grow fonder. And I kind of always got the impression that they were doing this not so much because they cared about their parents' happiness, but they cared about their own.
Yeah,
And
they want
that's
two
realistic
parents.
for teenagers. They want 2 parents and they want to be with each other. I do feel the love between the twins in the first movie. Maybe not everyone is loving in this movie, but I do feel their bond and that they want to be with each other and not apart. And the best way to do that is for your parents to be together. And, you know, one really wants a father relationship, one really wants a mother relationship, and they want to be around each other. So I never got the sense that they're like, we really want mom and dad to be happy and in love, which you do feel in the Lohan one, but I think they were in it for themselves, and that's also fine with me. I don't care.
So, and I mean, also, do these parents deserve to be happy? As likable as they are to watch in either movie, like, they're not good people.
No, they split up their twins. Like, that's so strange.
They're so selfish.
Really
They're
selfish.
like, they look the same, so we can each keep one. Like, it's so weird. They
I will
wouldn't they
say-
wouldn't have done that if they had a boy and a girl, maybe. Like they probably would have been like, no, we'll share custody. And
Yeah.
instead they're like, they look just like each other. You won't even notice one is missing.
It's like cats.
Yeah. I will say I think that, and I don't know why they make this decision for the first one and for this one, but I do think that the parents not noticing is the story is upheld a little bit by the fact that they have decided to use one person and make them twins. So it does look like, whereas like real twins, even identical twins, if you've stared at them long enough, you're like, no, your nostrils are bigger, that ear's bigger. Like there's things that make them noticeably different if you look at them beside each other, you know? So I do think the fact that they've decided they didn't look for a pair of twins to be in these movies,
Yeah.
that kind of makes it, kind of gives you the suspension of disbelief.
Yeah. But I do like that they in both movies put in little things like where people who aren't their parents are like, no, there's something weird, and they all figure it out. But the parent, you know, you have the grandfather in the first one, the good grandfather, and the housekeeper is also kind of like something's up. And then you have Chessie and the dog in this
Yeah.
one. Imagine that poor dog. That is a horror movie for that dog. He's like, this looks like my person, but
Doesn't
does
smell
not
like my
smell like
person.
her. What
I was
is going
thinking-
on?
I was thinking of that when I on this rewatch for the scene when they show up dressed the same or similarly. They're like, "We're not going to tell you who's who." Why didn't they?
I know. I'm like, get the dog.
The dog knows. And the dog is at the hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get the dog.
The
I
dog is-
thought the same thing. I'm like, they shouldn't have put that in there because now you're like, there's a solution. Get the dog. And Chessie, maybe that's it. Maybe Chessie would have known, like, just get the dog. But she wants this to go down too. So
Also, can I point out, this was something I didn't think about till this rewatch. The fact that one of them's growing up in England, one's growing up in America, there's absolutely no way they would both have the same waist size. I don't know which
Sure.
one would, but they wouldn't be the same build. Like
Mhm.
one of them would be thinner and one of them would be bigger. I
Right.
feel like there would be that's one of the little snippets that's always kind of like crawled under, like something, not just your hair would be different.
well, I think you could say the same thing even with Boston and California, but also with just two different parenting styles, right?
Yeah.
Like Sharon growing up in this horrifically strict home, and then like
She's not allowed to eat candy.
And then, like, seemingly Susan with no supervision whatsoever.
Yeah.
On a freaking ranch that goes on for days, you know? So,
Yeah.
even that, yeah. Just two different parenting, I think, would make it like they
Yeah.
aren't exactly the same.
Yeah. That's the only thing that crawled under me this time. I was like, I never noticed that before.
One thing that I wanted to dive into is why do we think Chessie / whatever her name is, like off-brand Chessie in the original, why are they the only ones for the most part that really notice it over the parents?
I think
the parents
Chessie's-
aren't raising the children.
Yeah, I think Chessie is largely in charge of the parenting in that home.
So same as the butler and the grandfather.
Okay, but can I just say this? This house is not grand enough for a butler. That was the other thing. This British home that has a butler is a tiny apartment. And I'm like, what are we doing? Why do you have a butler?
In London, though, it's probably worth like a couple.
No, that's ridiculous. They live in a tiny little flat in London.
I
and
do
they're
think
like,
if they
"Here's our
live in, it's
butler."
probably like New York. That's probably a really expensive place.
I guess, but get some better furniture. It looked it was gross. I hated that home as well. Yuck. The
I do
Boston
love-
home. That is a home that looked like it needed a butler. Like
Yeah.
I
this
do
one?
love the
No.
Napa home. The
Napa
Napa
home.
home.
Yeah,
is like-
Napa home's fine.
Oh,
I love
I
the
would
ranch in
die.
the beginning, in the
I would die.
original one, except for the pond that they swim in. I'm like, you lost me there. I'm not getting in that thing. But it's California, so there's probably no scary wildlife, but still not getting in.
And I've heard like the trope with Nancy Meyers movies. I mean, this was her first film that she directed, but she had written a lot prior to this. But the trope of Nancy Meyers films seems to be that they are movies about houses, or they're movies where homes are very prevalent.
Yeah. What else did she do?
She did The Holiday, which is definitely like
Yeah.
literally about the houses. She wrote some of the Father of the Bride movies. She
Oh,
did,
that house is great. Yeah.
I love those movies so much. Oh my
Mhm.
god.
yeah, Nancy Meyers is great. What else did she do? Hold on. And also, I'm just shocked that this is her first time directing a movie, and I think
She did
technically
great.
it's a well-made film.
Mhm.
She did Something's Got to Give. It's complicated. Home, no, she didn't direct Home Again. Yeah, she actually hasn't directed that much, but I think they've all been winners. The stuff that
Something's Gotta Give is one of my favorites too.
Oh, and she wrote Private Benjamin with Goldie Hawn.
Oh, I love that movie. That movie's great.
Oh
Nancy
my
Myers
gosh.
can do no wrong. We love
Yeah.
Nancy Myers on this channel.
Mm.
So yeah, Jesse raising the kids makes sense.
Butler also raising the kids.
Yeah, but he didn't pay as much. He didn't know.
No,
No, he didn't.
she's probably hanging out with weirdo grandpa for sure.
I will
could
say-
also see. I could see original because Maureen O'Hara does seem like she was never at home. Like, and she also had an abusive mother, so she's like constantly busy with her society things, of course. But that nice grandpa, the good grandpa in the original one, of course, he figured it out because she's probably hanging out with him a lot because they're both trying to get away from the crazy grandma. So they're like, yeah, let's bond. Like, so I get why he also figured it out.
Original grandpa was so unfazed. That was one thing that
Love
I guess it didn't bother me, but I was just like, why?
He's-
Why is everyone so?
No,
afraid of
he's
this?
subtle. I love how he was subtly trying to tell Maureen, like, you need to update your wardrobe if you're going to go get you a man back. Like, we're not going in whatever this is, but he didn't say that outright. He kind of like, he stepped in it on accident, but it got her to be like, what do you mean? And like, I'm going to go get new things. Like, let's stop in New York. When he's like, it's fine. You want to take this old ratty thing? Who am I? He did never mind. Everything's fine. And I love
You
that
know,
about
one thing I respect about you is that you don't feel the need to keep up with the fashion trends, and that's just one of the things that's great. The way that you
I loved it. He knew exactly what he was doing. And if the grandmother had said that to her, she would have flipped out. But if coming from silly old dad, it's like, oh, okay. And then he was like, oh, thank God she's going to go get something new and like really get this together.
And I liked how that was reinterpreted as like Martin's moment in the remake, because I think it's also reflective of what their relationship is. Because she even says you're like a lovable brother who waits on us, and then right away he's like, well, as a brother figure or a friend, if I was seeing my ex, I'd wear this. Like he knows, like I love the Martin relationship. I don't know
wear
why
this
there.
other boring dress that we haven't seen yet.
She looks
When
good.
That whole scene reminds me of the scene in Mrs. Doubtfire where they're doing the dresses. No,
Oh my God, I
you
love
should
that
wear
scene.
that one.
Not the red. No.
Oh, that reminds me. We give you a chance to give your fashion discourse because you mentioned the fashion. I think from the
Mhm.
is a key point.
Wait, what did you say? Sorry.
I don't think we got a chance to hear your thoughts on the fashion from specifically the first movie, but maybe this one as well.
I just, even when I lived in the era of Y2K fashion, I hated it. So this movie does not speak to me in any way. I think maybe the nail polish. Yeah, I would have enjoyed like as that age. But I remember watching this as a 12-year-old and being like, this is a lot of denim jackets. What are we doing? Like, I don't want to wear any of that. I don't think it's cute. I do think because you're right, Jeanette, the Asian dress with the chopsticks was a moment in this time period. So I think I remember enjoying that, but not wanting to wear it. Like, it was like, oh, this is at least fun and different. Whereas the original movie, oh my God, their dresses like the dress that Sharon just shows up at camp in, like gorgeous. The one, like when they're like trying each other's clothes on, like definitely the Boston twin had the better wardrobe. And I think the British twin in this one has the better wardrobe. But the California wardrobe was still beautiful. And then obviously Maureen O'Hara's dress is gorgeous. I was uninspired by everything the mom wore in this Parent Trap. I
will say
hated
Natasha
it.
Richardson's clothes in this one are, for being a designer and for all of the other clothes, even like Chessie's stuff I kind of loved. I was like, yeah, her stuff is very just Hillary Clinton. Like
It was bad. It was so bad.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
What about Meredith?
I'm running right back.
Did we like Meredith?
It was all right. It was definitely better, but it was okay. It was still just like a lot of pencil dresses. I'm bored. Give me a full skirt. Give me a belt. Give me a pattern. My God, do something that isn't white. Like
Meredith's
anything.
hiking outfit. Of the whole movie when I was a kid, that hiking outfit, I was like, oh my, it's just a black sports bra and black pants with a white stripe, but I love it.
Yeah, I was like, I like the original evil lady better with the khaki button up and the like weird pants and the boots. Like that
Because
was
she's
more
wearing
my
the
thing.
dad's clothes in the original. instead of her own.
Yeah, but she is working them. They're cute. And Maureen O'Hara, when she's like bumming around the house in his shirt, I'm like, why are you the cutest person to ever live? And I've never thought that about Natasha Richardson, not even once. Like it was.
I did
Oh
love
my
all of
God.
Meredith Blake's hats that she wore.
Yeah,
I love
those
that.
were good. Those were good. But I seriously, there's a Haley Mills outfit. I think when the mom first shows up and it's like a green dress with a really big belt, and I think about that all the time. I'm like, I want that outfit. Why doesn't it exist? How do I get my hands on it? I just think about it.
I remember the mom's green dress. What?
Yeah, or it's like I forget. I think it's green, or it's like a khaki color, maybe. I can't remember. But the skirt is perfect. She's wearing like the most perfect kitten heel with it. I'm just obsessed. I want it so bad, and you can't have it. Doesn't exist in real life. So, and I felt that way from the moment I saw this when I was probably 8, and so like just a few years later, seeing this new one, I'm like, ooh, the fashion's gonna be good. No, it was not. Even oh my God, the stuff the dad is wearing in the original one too, and then Dennis Quaid like that dress up once in a while, my guy. Like, what are you wearing? And the other guy is like golfing in a tweed jacket. And I'm like, yes,
Martin's biker look is cool. When he like he goes casual Martin, and then he's like us.
I do love the Martin casual look, but then again, I do like a denim jacket and a leather jacket. So,
oh, and I love Martin and Chessie, just that they're a thing.
Yes,
that was cute.
That's always one of the best parts of the end. Yeah,
so sweet. It's so
flirtation is cute too. Throughout.
And I think another thing that I adore about the remake is that, like, I think clearly they had so much more money to put into this film. Like they have so many more locations, and also just changing it so that it's instead of just bi-coastal, it's like bi-continental between the twins, moving it to another continent. Because I even remember watching the original as a kid, and with Haley Mills's non-Boston accent, which is basically just bad British, which is weird because she is British, but whatever. I was like, why didn't they just set this in England? But I understand now is probably because they didn't have the budget to set go to England and shoot in England, and also like they shot most of it on one location at the California house, whereas here we get the hotel sequence, which I just adore. I love that we get a hotel section. I don't know why. There's just something so special about it. It makes it feel better that we're in a hotel. Yeah. So thoroughly enjoy that.
Getting the like scene with the priest and all that, like falling in love with Maureen O'Hara in the original one, and that sunken living room in that ranch house. Like I could spend a long time in that ranch house. So
that's fair. And I'm glad you mentioned the priest. I do miss Reverend Mosby.
Well, I like that they mentioned him. He's on the phone with Meredith in the beginning, and she's like lying about doing a function with him. So I do like that he at least got a mention. But
yeah, I like that he exists in the world. Definitely. But on my rewatch this today of original Parent Trap, I feel like a lot of the Reverend Mosby humor went over, not a lot, all of it went over my head as a kid when the dad is like, you probably don't drink, Reverend. He's like, no, double bourbon on the rocks. And just having all these very non-priest-like moments just very dryly scattered throughout the film is hilarious. I warmed up to the original as it went on. Yeah, I think once they got to Napa, no, it's not Napa in the original. Once they got to California in the original, yeah, I was on board. Yeah. It's also weird just how rich these families are in both of these movies. Like this story work if they're not millionaire families.
No, because they would never have met. There would be no money to even go to camp, right? So
yeah, that's true. Yeah. They're just very like both kids are just so privileged. They have butlers, they have horses. I'm jealous. Yeah. I want a butler. I want a horse. Anyway, yeah. So we've kind of touched on this, but I want to hear more about your thoughts on why no one likes Dennis Quaid.
I mean, personally, I think Dennis Quaid is an underwhelming actor in everything. He's one of those people that's like, I'm Dennis Quaid and I'm here in this role.
Yeah.
And that's
he never really seems like he's acting. I wouldn't be shocked if you told me this is just him playing himself, right?
Yeah. But I don't know. I think he's cast very well. I think he's just
for sure. Yeah.
and it works. And I think he has really good chemistry with Natasha Richardson. No, Miriam? No? Miriam made a face?
No. Mm-mm.
I thought it was believable. I thought the relationship was believable between them. But I think that the reason that Dennis Quaid works in this role is because he's much like a lot of the male characters in this movie. They make most of the male characters pretty clueless. The dad doesn't figure it out. Martin doesn't figure it out. The grandfather does, but only because he sees or hears her doing something. Like most of the men are made to look kind of stupid in this film. And Dennis Quaid seems kind of aloof and oblivious, so that works.
Yeah, that's fair. And that reminded me of another thing that I want to touch on. Like the undercurrent problem, I think, with both stories that we've touched on is just the fact that the parents did this terrible thing separating the kids. But one thing that really resonated with me on this rewatch is the fact that seemingly every other adult in their lives have also been aware of this and have kept the secret. Like,
Mhm.
what are
Yeah.
our thoughts on that? Why do we think the Chessies and the Martins and the grandpas kept their mouths shut for so long? Because they're seemingly really happy when they find out what happened and they're into it. They're like, oh, yeah, I wondered what happened to you. Yeah, let's get those parents together. But like, if you really cared that much, why didn't you say something?
Because they're paid servants and they wouldn't
Yeah,
do it if they broke the rules.
the employees make sense because they'll get fired if they.
Grandpa. But
Grandpa in the original is being held under by grandma, and I would not be shocked if grandma was the decision-making power in the first one.
Oh, fair.
I
Yeah.
feel like she's like, either you get both of them or you just get one and you never speak to him again, and those are your options. Figure it out, and then grandpa is just like, oh god, I gotta
And
just live
I
my
think
life like this. I don't know.
This happened the day they were born, right? Or like soon after, right?
I don't know if they ever say.
No, not the day they were born because they were still together. So.
Yeah, I got the impression they were a year old.
I think they're
okay. So I think at that point, if it's been a decade, then it may be not something that these people have in their minds at the forefront every day. So like after a while, you're not thinking about it.
Yeah, then especially the original one, 16 years go by, and you're like,
yeah, exactly. So like I think that's a realist. I don't think that's written in. I don't think anybody thought about that when they were writing it, but that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess I forgot that they are paid servants. They just both seem like such parts of the family.
Yeah.
Lovable brothers and sisters that just happen to wait on.
I
them.
will say to your point about why they're the ones that think, oh, it's great, let's get your parents back together, is probably because they thought it was stupid and crazy in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And these parents who were being selfish didn't. And they just couldn't say anything because once again, they were paid help. So
yeah. And the 60s were just different. I think people had secret families then, and like it was probably like, yeah, okay, that's fine, I guess. I'll keep the secret. It's weird, but sure.
And how do you feel this movie or the original handle the whole divorce conversation? Like, I think it's interesting seeing a film from the 60s based around divorce because, I mean, I don't know how common it was back then, but I feel like it wasn't super common or a thing that people talked about as much. And
it was still shameful back then, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when this film was made, it was definitely a conversation that was being had a lot more. I think there was less shame around it, but I also feel that this movie, to go back to what we said about how in the original you can get a sense of why they broke up and why they actually maybe shouldn't be together. Whereas in this film, I think it's romanticizing the breakup, like just as a lost love thing. And I don't know how I feel about that or which approach I prefer. Like when it comes to family movies about divorce, I really appreciate Mrs. Doubtfire because I think that has a lot of hope married with realism. Whereas this one, yeah, but granted, it's also part of the reason I love this movie so much is because it just makes me feel warm and happy. And like, yes, love exists at seeing them come back together, but also like, I don't know. How do you feel about the whole divorce thing in either film?
I mean, I think that they've handled it well in both films. I feel like they kind of in the remake, I feel like they almost just kind of skirt over it. They barely touch on. There's like a very short scene where we're talking about like them actually fighting. Other than that, we just see that they're married and they're not, and there's very little discussion about like what divorce does, how it works, why it happened, or any of that. And the first one, I think, like we've said already, like it was just more obvious, and the discussion there isn't. I don't think it's really like, if I'm not remembering correctly, but I mean, I don't think it's like a hard and fast discussion about like divorce. It's just like
Yeah, it's
the
kind of
relationship.
nice. You would imagine the 60s one would like come with some shame about it, and they really didn't do that, which was nice. And I think maybe if you were a kid in the 60s dealing with that, that would have probably been refreshing to see. And the new one, you get the sense like, oh, well, we got married so fast and we didn't know each other, and like now it's obvious that we should break up. And it's like, is it obvious? I don't know, but
Yeah.
I kind of felt like they got married fast, they got divorced fast, no one noticed. And that's
Right.
just how it goes. Like sometimes you got to do that if you get married too fast. I don't know. I feel like they just kind of did they like get married on that boat?
Yeah, I think they like met and
They
got
met on the boat and got married, I think. Yeah.
On the boat?
That's what the
Well-
beginning of the thing shows us.
Yeah, so like 5 days we're talking that they got married.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. I would not have been shocked at hearing that. And like if it's your friend and you're like, we got married after 5 days, you're like, you're gonna get divorced. Okay. You know, so I feel like maybe they set that up okay, that's what that was about or something.
I will say, I always thought like, oh, it's terribly unrealistic that they would get back together, blah, blah, blah. Cut to today, where my parents divorced years ago in older age, like older than the people in this film, and then just recently got back together. So like,
See, so that's what I'm saying. You're just like,
I was like, it was so unreal. And then now the life surrounding that was a lot crazier than what happens in this film. But like, still, I was like, oh, okay, well,
There
that
weren't even
teaches,
twins involved in that.
yeah, that teaches me to think that this sort of thing is unrealistic. It's like, oh, okay, well,
Well,
I don't know. It was refreshing because this was the first time since it happened where I watched this and I was like, oh, it's unrealistic. I was like, oh, is it? It's not.
no, yeah.
you know, I keep forgetting that in this one, in the newer one, that they did get married so quickly. It's also weird to think that Chessie was around back then. And I wonder if, like, I want to know the character history between her and Nick. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like I feel like they at least had one drunken night.
I don't know. She seems too easygoing for him.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But like, yeah.
He seems like he needs some sort of high-strung person in contrast to his easygoingness. That seems to be who he's drawn to.
True. Maybe she's not his sister. Doesn't establish that. Although he does mention his sister in the movie. We never see her. It's like, I think my sister was conceived on this bottle of wine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it is Chessie. If I were rewriting this movie, I would have made Chessie the sister. Yeah.
That would be weird if she was waiting on them though.
Well, like maybe not waiting, just still living with him. Although that would be weird. Anyway.
And like an auntie situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that makes this movie so quintessentially summery is that like it opens with camp and then ends with camping. So let's talk a little bit about the camping sequence. Specifically, do we think in either film the twins went too far with torturing the lady friend?
No. And I again find the pranks in the second one pretty boring. Like just pushing her out onto the lake, meh, big deal. The bear that I prophesied would come around came around in the first one. That was terrifying. So also I like the twins on one on the other shoulder and the fish like swimming in front. Like that was a very fun scene in the first one. And then this one was like, oh, this is devoid of anything fun. And this
You got the lizard in the mouth.
Yeah, the lizard was always my favorite part, but
yeah, I know. I am team they went too far. And maybe not even just because I'm hashtag justice for Meredith Blake. I think they went a little too far in maybe not as much in the original. I think the pranks were more fun in the original. Even though the bear was out of their control though. Although I guess if they did put honey on her feet, they probably suspected her.
Yeah, if you grow up camping, you know not to do that to attract bears.
Yeah, but I don't know, pushing her out onto the water, my first thought on this rewatch was she could die.
no, she couldn't.
No, she'd fall in and it would wake her up. She would not.
Sleeping pill. She took one very large sleeping
She
pill.
would still wake up. She didn't she didn't have a head injury. Like she'd be fine.
More likely she'd die from the bear.
Yeah. The mother bear coming to get its cubs. Yeah. That was real danger.
Yeah, I want to see the cut where Meredith / Vicky dies. And then the twins just have to deal.
That's dark.
Yeah.
It's an easier outcome.
Exactly.
So
And then
think
that's when the
there's-
parents get back together because she's out of.
Meredith's gone.
I also like to
Mhm.
imagine what the car ride back was like with Meredith because we don't have a Hecky in the remake to take her. So
Oh,
she would.
poor Hecky. You know, he was like,
Well, he's so easygoing though. I feel he wouldn't have been.
yeah, but he
phased.
also doesn't want to be bothered by a psycho. And also when she slaps the one in that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I don't think they went too far. Like that was crazy.
Yeah.
So
well, yeah, and I think that goes hand in hand with why I prefer that character and how she's handled overall in the remake because I don't think the way she reacts to anything is unreasonable. Whereas I do think Vicky is unreasonable pretty much from the beginning, but especially like slapping a kid. No,
that was rough.
yeah, you don't slap kids. You don't slap kids. That's the
No.
rule. That's the rule. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, anything else we want to discuss about this movie before we go on to the game?
Well, we had some camp stories, right?
Yes, let's hear the
Miriam?
key stories.
Oh yeah. Go ahead, Jeanette.
I have two short ones. So I went to 4-H camp 2 or 3 years, which looked very much like the camp in this movie. And one of the things was I was standing, we were getting instructions, and I'm at the back of the group, and I kind of like walked along, and I'm walking for a little bit, and then I feel something, and I look down, and both of my legs, for the second time in my life, actually, this happened when I was a little kid, are covered in so many ants that it looks like I have boots on. And
No.
so they rush me over to the first aid area, and they're like, we have like, and they rinse them off of me, right? And then they pull out the individual little bug bite where you break the top and then you dab it on, and they're like, this is all we have. So they're literally like sitting there like dabbing the ant bites all over my leg. It was so bad. And then on that same camping trip, I'm walking, we had dances every night. And I had glasses at that age, and I thought I would look a lot cooler if I didn't wear my glasses. I am blind without my glasses, but I wanted to look cute and cool. So I decided to walk to the dance blind in the dark. And so I, on the way, ran into 2 trees, and then also under one of those trees got either pooped or peed on by a bat. I'm not sure to this day because I just went back and watched. Like, I can't see. I don't know. Yeah. And then last little tidbit, got hypothermia on my first trip with Girl Scouts in 5th grade. So that wasn't fun. I'm not a good camper. I'm not very good at it.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, I have 2. They were both when I was a counselor and both when I had 16-year-old kids in my cabin. There's usually like 20 per cabin and 2 counselors at that age. The younger kids get 3 counselors because it's a lot. But anyway, we had so many girls in our cabin one year that we had bunk beds all around the perimeter of the cabin, but we had to have a bed just like by itself in the middle also. And in the middle of the night, the girl who was in the middle bed like gets up and she moves her like sleeping bag off the bed and kind of like puts it near my bed. And I was like, "Are you okay?" It's like dark, and I'm like, "Are you okay? What's going on?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And I'm like, "All right, whatever. We'll deal with this in the morning. It's like probably 2 a.m. Like, I don't want to. We won't. If you're fine not talking about it right now, I'm fine not talking about it right now." So we go back to sleep, and then maybe I don't know how, because I didn't look at the clock. I don't know how much longer, but a while later, the smoke detector goes off, and I was like, "What in the world?" So then I do turn on the lights. There is a colony of ants streaming out of the smoke detector. And they were landing on this girl's bed in the middle of the night. And I don't think she knew it was ants. She knew something was happening. I think she thought maybe it was a water drip or something. And so she just got up and whatever. And yeah, ants all over the cabin. We were screaming. The crew at the time was like all boys. And so I had to like go get them. And they're like way up the hill. So I'm like run, and I'm the only one there. There was some times where it was just one counselor at night, and I'm the only one there. I'm like, "You guys stay right here." And like, we run, I go and get them, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "Just come see." And they were like, it was insane. It took like 3 days for them to fix the problem and get all the bugs out. And like, we all had to like, I had to take all the bedding from everyone's beds and go to like a commercial laundromat and like get the bugs out of everything. And then we had to sleep in the middle of camp for 3 nights. like in what we called the meadow, which was on a hill. So we would start at the top of the hill. By the end of the night, we're at the bottom of the hill. And also in the morning, the whole camp is piling in like where we're sleeping. It was a nightmare. And then another time, it was like the next year, and I was in the same cabin, different girls, obviously, because they've now grown up, but the same cabin. There's still kind of like an ant problem. Like there would be like flying ants on the cabin. There's like always, I think it's probably still a thing if I had to guess. And this was, many years ago. But we were doing what's called cabin fellowships. It was like a night where we're all inside just talking to each other. We had like candles lit and like I got all kinds of good snacks for us. And it's like like some time for us to like bond better, right? This male crew that I told you about, they're all 18 and they know the girls because they've all grown up with them. And so they decided to prank us. They found in our costume room, they had a big stuffed bear head and they somehow rigged it onto a stick. And the window that I was at, it's a 2-story window. So this would not have made sense. This would have been the biggest bear on earth. They like parade the stick in front of the window and we're all screaming, but now we don't know what to do. Do we get out of the cabin? Like, no, because there's a bear. It was nuts. Then every cabin has a radio in it. So we're like radioing the crew, like there's a bear. And they're like, we could hear them laughing. And then we figured out it was a prank, but it was crazy. And then last thing, that same cabin, after the bear prank was over, we go try and do our fellowship again. There was a girl in my cabin who was heinously allergic to peanuts. Like we had so many talks about the peanut allergy. If we were having PB&J in the lodge, I would go somewhere else with her outside to eat something different. Like she couldn't be in the same room with it. She had an EpiPen. I don't know what she was thinking. She takes a whole handful of Gorp, good old raisins and peanuts, and throws it in her mouth. Because there was one, I think, without peanuts and one with it. It was crazy. She throws it in her whole mouth. I had to EpiPen her and take her to the emergency room. So she was fine, but it was the scariest moment of my life. And yeah, so those were my camp stories. It was wild times. So yes, there was a prank in there. There was also bugs. I told you about the bear ripping open the door to get to the apple, like just crazy stuff. We all got bear maced one time because a bear had gotten into camp and we were all trying to go to what we called the council ring where we would sing songs and do skits and whatever. We were all trying to walk over there and one of these male crew members again sees the bear. For bear mace to work, you have to be like within a foot of the bear. Like it's a last resort. This kid decided he's like, oh, I'll bear mace it. It was windy. The mace just got caught on the wind and maced everybody in the crowd. It was children. It was crazy. So yes, bear mace as well. Those are my stories.
Oh
I
my
have many,
goodness.
but there you go. Ants and bears and peanuts. Oh my.
The Gorp story is the craziest one for me.
It was nuts. That was the scariest night.
It was nuts. That's the problem, Miriam.
Literal nuts. Yep.
It was nuts.
Yeah, she came back to camp though. She was a trooper. She was like, "No, I'm ready to go back." Now that we've made
Are
sure.
you ready to not put an allergen that will kill you into your mouth, though?
Yeah, I'm like, can we not do that?
Okay.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, no, I had nothing close to that. Just one of the kids that I was teaching at the camp, I knew had a stone fruit allergy, and she was eating stone fruit, and I was like, "But you're allergic." She was like, "I get itchy, but I like the taste."
Yeah, no, this was like asphyxiation allergy. It's bad.
That's so bad. Okay.
Oh, there was a mountain lion too that like stalked us down the mountain one time at night. That was the scariest moment too.
Did you get 2 sticks and go?
I sure didn't. I thought about that moment though. I'm like, I really wish that worked. I feel like it would just attract them more. So yeah.
Classic. All right. So for the game tonight, we haven't done this one in a long time, and I don't even have a title for it. But how it's going to work is, because I'm so obsessed with the cast in this movie, I don't know if you've ever played this, Miriam and Jeanette. We haven't played this in a long time. I am going to name a film that one of the actors from this movie was also in. You just have to tell me which actor / character was in that other movie.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah, so super easy. Good
Are we
time.
yelling out? Are we writing down?
You know what? Let's make it a real competition. Yell it out.
Okay.
Yell it out. Only one winner only 1 point per question. Here we go. And it's a free for all. It's a free for all. Okay, here we go. The very first one. And I will say there are no repeats, but
Okay.
also there kind of are.
Because people could be in the same movie.
Maybe, kind of. Well, we'll see. Okay. First one. Your movie is I Know Who Killed Me.
Trying to think what time period that comes from. I Know Who Killed Me.
I Know Who Killed Me.
Is that Lindsay Lohan?
It's Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah, I was like, wait, that's newer.
That was from her Downward Spiral.
Yes, it
That was when it
was.
started. That was when it started. Okay, next. Captain America, the First Avenger.
Dennis Quaid.
Is that your final answer?
Sure.
No, not Dennis Quaid. Jeanette?
Well, I know it's not Natasha Richardson.
Oh, rest in
It's, I will take a guess and say that it is going to be Chessie. I don't know the actress's name, but
It is not Chessie. We were looking for
Okay.
Martin the Butler.
I almost
Mm.
freaking said
Yes.
that.
I don't think
Yeah.
it's a big role. I think he's just like around. He's just around. I don't think he's that important, but he's there. Sadly, he didn't do that much after this or even before this. This is basically the only movie he was in.
Mm.
He
Should
seems
be more. Good. He's so good. Okay, next. The Handmaid's Tale. Not
Is that one
Chessie.
Chessie? We both say Chessie.
No, it's not Chessie. We're looking for Natasha Richardson.
How?
No, not the TV show, the movie.
Oh,
Oh, I
It's a
forgot.
movie.
Movie.
oh.
Yeah. The VHS
like,
cover is
how?
Natasha Richardson like wrapped in a red blanket, looking seductive and also scared. Like,
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Oh,
Hmm.
I'll have to check that out.
yeah.
I'm not a big fan of the show, but I do like Natasha Richardson.
I haven't seen the show. I have seen part of the movie, and I think the movie is critically considered not good, but I thought it was a good time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like a lot of things that are critically considered not very good.
Yeah. Plus, like Margaret Atwood, Canadian Treasure. Got to support Margot. Love her. Okay.
Yeah,
Jaws-
the show will scar you.
What's that?
This show will scar you irrevocably. So
Oh, no. I'm
Yeah.
ready. I'm
Mhm.
ready.
No, don't. No.
No,
don't
okay.
try that. I promise
Jaws
you.
3D.
Yeah. Jaws 3D is much better. Oh, Dennis Quaid! I just talked about Jaws 3D. I'm passionate about Jaws 3D. It was so fun.
Have you seen it in 3D?
No, I watched it just regular. You can't. I would love a re-release to see this in actual 3D. They filmed it at SeaWorld. It's ridiculous. It was so funny.
That's amazing. Okay, next. Romy and Michelle's high school reunion.
Chessie.
Chessie, yeah, she got it. No? Oh.
It's Meredith.
Natasha. Oh,
It's
Meredith.
Meredith.
Yes, she
She
was Mean
played
Girl.
one role in the 90s a lot.
Yeah. And did you know she and Chessie are best friends in real life?
Yes, from this
So
movie.
cute. Yes.
It's the
I love
sweetest
that.
Wow.
thing. Apparently, they bonded within 6 hours.
No, it's not the sweetest thing. That's Cameron Diaz you're thinking of.
Oh, I do love that movie too. Christina
Yeah,
Applegate.
me too. I love that one.
It's so good.
All right, next. Abbott Elementary.
That one's Chessie. She is.
That
on
one
there.
is Jesse. There we go. Point for Jeanette. Okay.
I don't watch it, but I've seen some snippets.
Same with me. Friends.
Janice. I don't know her real
Yes.
name.
Marla Jr. or whatever. In
Yeah.
this, her real name is Maggie Wheeler.
Yeah.
So good. She's so good. Okay. Gremlins.
The grandfather.
No.
Oh, dang. That
Miriam?
would have made sense.
It's Natasha? No.
You said there's no repeats, right?
I said there are no repeats with one caveat.
Natasha.
Okay.
No, this isn't the caveat, though. It's not her. It's Marva Sr.
Who?
Marva C, the camp owner. Janice's mom.
Oh, she is in that. You're
I think she has a big
right.
role in it, too. I think she's like,
Yeah, she does. Her face. I remember seeing her face a lot in it. Now that you say it.
yeah. All right. The Parent Trap. The original.
Haley Mills.
No.
The grandfather.
No.
No, but the ugly dachshund, that grandfather's.
No, we have one cameo in this movie from the original, and it is Vicky. You May Call Me
Oh,
Aunt
yeah.
Vicky, because that's original Vicky. So Meredith
Oh,
is the homewrecker from
That's right.
the original.
That's
oh
right.
my God.
Yes, he aged well. She aged very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm tickled by that cameo.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yes. Okay, and finally, Irish Wish.
Lindsay Lohan.
Yes, Lindsay Lohan.
Just
put
because
her
she's
twice.
ginger.
Because twins. There we go.
Yeah, I was like, wait, that's your caveat, isn't it? There's two of her.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now for the bonus question, you both have an opportunity to wager however many of your points you would like. Miriam, you have 2. Jeanette, you have 3.
Oh wow.
2.
2. Okay.
I'll throw in all my 3. That's
Okay. I will give you both an opportunity to answer. So yeah, you can write down your answer if you have a writing device.
Mhm.
It is a very difficult question. Okay.
I
Yeah.
haven't written in this journal since last time I was on your show.
All right. Your bonus question is Haley Mills recently made her big return to the silver screen. She is currently in a movie playing in theaters right now. What is the name of that movie?
Oh, okay. I'm gonna take a good guess. Let's see.
And shall I give a hint? I'll give a bit of a hint. The name of this movie has a very superficial connection to The Parent Trap.
Okay. Maybe I'm wrong. No, I think that actually makes sense. Okay.
Okay, let's start with Jeanette. Let's see what Jeanette says. It ends with us. Okay, Miriam.
It's Twisters, and she's in the tornado, and you see it like
That's literally what I said.
Oh, you literally said Twisters.
Well, we have no winner tonight. We were looking for Trap. She
What is
in
it?
Trap?
Trap.
Oh, the new Josh Hartnett. Have you heard? Josh Hartnett is back.
Yes.
I didn't know he
Miriam and
went
I
away.
are spreading the good word. He is following Brendan Fraser's footsteps, and we will be reviving his career.
Yes. He was also in The Bear this season. So there you go.
I have got to see Trap though. And that's
Yeah,
cute with
it
the
looks scary.
tie-in.
Mm-hmm. Parent Trap.
What
Yes.
is,
that
what
makes
is
sense.
Haley Mills in that?
I haven't actually seen it. I think she's either like a cop or a doctor or something.
Wow,
Great. And
cool.
she was just at D23 singing Let's Get Together.
Yeah,
Loved
she
it.
got her Disney Legend, or was she already? But she got it this year, right?
Probably.
I don't know why they were. Oh, it was because of the Sherman Brothers. They were doing Sherman Brothers music
Yeah.
to honor
okay.
Richard Sherman. Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, I did badmouth Haley Mills earlier in this broadcast.
Yeah,
But I still love
rude. Okay, can I also my last beef, and this is with both movies. Quit putting haircut scenes in movies. It is ridiculous. Especially the original. The pixie cut would not have turned out. It would have been
No.
horrific.
Yeah, I was
And
gonna say
they
this
use,
one's
like,
kind of
craft
believable because it's
scissors.
just shoulder length hair. But
Yeah,
even
but
that,
the way
dry
she cut her bangs, I'm like, that
Yeah.
would have been a straight chop. Like it was not this like beautiful side bang. I hate it. I hate it when they put haircut movies or haircuts in movies because they're just like, yeah, anyone can do it with
Yeah.
crappy scissors out of the craft room. Like, no.
I mean, kind of to that point, one of the things I find entertaining about the Les Mis movie is that what's her face? Anne Hathaway got her hair actually cut on camera with her real hairdresser doing it. But I think her hairdresser was a guy, so they had to like put him in a dress, and he was just shot from the waist down, cutting her hair. And I feel like when you watch that sequence, I think you could tell that it's being done by someone who knows what they're doing.
Also, what an unnecessary thing to do for such a bad movie.
It got her an Oscar, though, Miriam. It's the haircut that got her an Oscar.
It was rough. It was
Miriam, I did want to ask you on this rewatch when I saw the kind of scissors she picked up, like those old
insane.
like craft scissors. I was like, those things are no, like get your
They
fisters.
even
Go get
cut
your fisters.
paper.
Yeah,
Yeah, even then, oh my god, it would just like there's no way on earth you're
it
getting
would be
like
like this.
it would be horrible. And they're just like chop. Like, no one does that. I'm like, where's the point cutting? Like, get a razor for those bangs. Like, what are we doing? Just chopping. And the pixie was even worse. And that's like a technical pixie that she's wearing in that. I think it's a wig for both of them, or for, I don't think it was her real hair, but it's like there's like perfect like pin curls around her face. I'm like, yeah, and she's just chopping that with the scissors at camp. No. That being said, I did watch many a haircut go down at camp, and it shouldn't have happened then either. I'm like, what are we doing, girls? Please don't cut each other's hair. This is such a mess.
Yeah. One thing on that note that stood out to me in the original were all the bad wigs. I just felt like there were a lot of really bad wigs, especially during the haircut scene when when the long hair was getting cut. I was like, that's a bad wig. So yes, cut it. Cut the bad wig.
Wig making can only come so far at that point in time.
It's true.
At least they were styled. I feel like some wigs now are not.
It just looked so big and poofy and not like hair.
But that was like also like real hair back then. Didn't really look like hair. So
women were trying to make their heads look like helmets more than
huge. Like Vicky's hair, I think was her hair. I don't think that was a wig. That's like literally what they were doing with like weird curls and stuff.
Yeah, Maureen's hair looked very.
That was real.
Really?
There might have been like a couple pieces in there, but most of it real.
I mean, my hot take was that it looked better before she went to New York, but whatever. That's just me. When it was like nice.
It was like in the tight buns.
Yeah, it looked nice.
She was like I like it big and like wild. I liked it better.
Well, the hair doesn't age.
No.
Yes, there it is. All right. Well, there we go, everyone. That's The Parent Trap. Woo! And thus ends our summer movie marathon. Thank you both for being with us here tonight. Closing thoughts on The Parent Trap. Let's start with Jeanette.
I still love this movie, and much like why am I forgetting her name? Kirsten Dunst, I feel that Lindsay Lohan peaked at the age of 11, and her acting didn't get any better after this. This is my favorite Lindsay Lohan project ever. And yeah, I'll watch it again.
You're not a Freaky Friday?
I do not like Freaky Friday. I find it.
I have high hopes for the second one.
Yeah, Freakier Friday. Things are going.
I'm excited to see the return of Lindsay. She looks great. I feel like she's really gotten it back together. So
yeah, and now she's been practicing a fake British accent for 15 years. So
there you go.
There you go.
There it is. Miriam, closing thoughts on Parent Traps?
The original one I love so much. This one has some high points, and I do think emotionally you're maybe going to be more invested. But if you are a fashion girly, this ain't it. It's the original. And if you want a realistic camp expression, it's the original. And if you like a better prank, it's the original. But also the houses are better. I'm just going to say it.
I love the houses on the phone.
God, that British home. I'm like, this is gross. What are we doing?
I would love that house. I would love that house.
I mean, I would, but I would gut it and like do some colors maybe and like put your crap away. Like, what's going on? It looks like a little. Anyways, neither here nor there. The Boston house and the ranch house in the first one. So beautiful. And Camp Inch is represented in Disneyland. If you go to California Adventure to Smoke Jumpers Grill in DCA, there is a little sign out front, and it's like advertising a whole bunch of stuff. It's like kind of a billboard because this is supposed to look like an outdoorsy cabin, the restaurant. And there is a bulletin in there saying all kinds of stuff advertising Camp Inch, which is the original camp from Parent Trap. So I do love that. And I noticed they went with Camp Inch and not the new camp. So
not Camp Walton for girls? Yeah.
No. Yeah.
I mean, well, I was going to say, I think I'd have more fun at Camp Walden, fencing, but seemingly that's unrealistic. So, all right. Well, thank you both. Now it's the time you're going to tell us who you are, what you have coming up, and where we can find you. We will start with Miriam.
I'm Miriam. I'm the Churro Fund on Instagram and TikTok. And I also co-host a podcast with Jeanette called We Like Theme Parks. And yeah, I'm not usually this passionate about a subject, so I'm so glad you all got to see this really come out. And I promise to be on better behavior next time I'm on. That's it.
Thank you, Miriam.
Hey, Lou. Like Miriam said, you can find me with her on We Like Theme Parks, but this week you can find Matt as well on We Like
Yeah.
Theme Parks. And yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at TinkerJ787. And you can find me here next week.
Woot! Thank you, Jeanette. Oh, she was about to say thank you, but I cut her off. My name is Matt, and I have 2 degrees, and this is my channel. Thank you so much for watching, friends. Please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Stay tuned because we're going to be starting up a brand new movie marathon in September. So we're not here next week. We might not be here the week after. I can't remember. Is it September 2 weeks from now? If it is, we'll be back here. If it's not, we won't. But September, we are doing movies about presidents because there's an election coming up in a country that I don't live in, but whatever happens still affects me. So let's talk about the presidency through movies. It'll be great. Until then, friends, everyone, have a wonderful rest of your summer. Thank you for joining us. My name is Matt, 2 degrees, teacup for 1. How do you end this?